People who have worked at convention, such as Comic-Con, Wizard World, Anime Expo, PAX, E3, etc. What is your most interesting story about it? I was a GRT, guest relations team. We get the big names to panels and do other stuff they need, at WonderCon many years ago. One of my big name folks was Robert Kirkman. He was very nice. The usual thing you try to do is take back routes if possible. It keeps the fanboy thing to a minimum. This time though we have to cross a convention floor. So we're walking along talking and people know who he is, so an occasional person will ask a question or want an autograph. It wasn't too bad. We get almost to the spot and 5 guys in Mandalorian armor come walking up and ask me for my autograph and a picture. So I ask Robert if he minds. He doesn't. So I obliged. We start walking and he asks what was that. I tell him I used to work on a cartoon with a small but very nice and dedicated fan group. He just laughed and asked which one. I told him which and that was the end of it. Later he joked that it was the only time he's had someone escorting him stop to sign an autograph. When I was in high school I worked at the Dealers Hall at FanImCon in downtown San Jose. I worked the entrance of Dealers Hall, which meant I checked the badges of everyone entering to make sure they had paid for the event. During one shift this 6 feet 5 inches rotund bald man wearing a backpack came up to me in the middle of a tiring shift and asked if I wanted to be glommed. I had zero idea what that was and I was quite exhausted, but he seemed friendly so I left out a quiet yes. With almost no effort he swiped me up in a bear hug and just kinda gently swayed me from side to side while humming. He kinda smelled like BO, but I was 17 at the time and no one had picked me up in several years, so it was somewhat calming. I have mixed feelings about the whole thing. The old grab latch on maintain pressure. The 14-year-old random spork weeb me knew that well. TLDR. BlizzCon was saved by tape. At BlizzCon last year we kept having entire gaming pods go offline. This happened because excited players accidentally stepped on the power strips under the table. The power strips were dangling under the tables due to a last-minute requirement from security that the networking and power equipment not be within visible reach of the players. After the con closed on the first night somebody went out and bought all the gaff tape they could find, and a veritable duct tape army of con staff taped all that crap up off the floors under the tables. The resulting tape bull during teardown was awesome. Gaff tape is the duct tape of the entertainment industry. Walk into any theater's scene shop and you'll see a wall of different size gaff in colors you didn't know existed. Gaff revolution spread the word. Been selling art at conventions for a number of years. There are way too many stories, but I'll try to be brief with some that stick out to me. Van Troy speeding through the convention floor on a small scooter with a small mass of people slowly walking after him. As a small Asian girl, a ridiculous amount getting hit on. When I was 14 this large older white dude in his mid-20s kept finding me and talking to me about hentai and his favorite kinds. At one point my friends and I just ran away. Hotel room orgies. Some big name VAs are huge pervs, taking advantage of their young insecure nerdy fans, saying really fricked crap to them, inviting them back to their hotels, groping them. Friend got hired by Guillermo del Toro after Guillermo del Toro approached his art table. Was sitting outside a convention when a girl came up to me barefoot and holding a kitten and let me pet it. When we asked why she was barefooted, she just said frick shoes and walked away. Atomic lollipop. The whole convention is a fricking shitshow. It's basically a convention run by rave kids. They rented out the Ontario Science Centre and had Cosplay, a semi-popular Canadian 90s band, but barred pretty much the entire convention from entering. Tickets were also $70 that day. Lots of drugs and booze and underage kids passing out and ambulance and vomit fricking everywhere. This might be the 3rd time they've gotten banned from a venue. Free hug lines. One convention I went to, you had to walk through this parking lot to get to the other side. A line of people were across it forcing free hugs. Everyone got hugged by a sweaty bare-chested Sephiroth. Also I'm really short, so I got a face full of the good stuff. People fricking under a blanket in broad daylight in a packed convention. And my favorite, made friends with some nice random people in line for AX. Then wandered the hotels nearby looking for a party. First was this really awkward party in a hotel lobby, ended within half an hour of us getting there. I searched forums and stuff and took a chance on another party in another hotel. This party was nuts. Everyone was just giving us booze like it was water. Some guy pulls out a huge bag of weed brownies and hands it to us. Another dude rolls up on his skateboard and offers us acid and weed. They came card sleeves instead of dime baggies. Another guy has this backpack thing full of some liquid and gives us this speech, and he sounded like a drill sergeant giving us a sermon. No idea what he said, but I just heard the words coconut and Everclear, and had people get down on their knees and had this hose thing he used to pump down people's throats. Also the liquid was white, and he was shirtless. Later that night I slept like a baby. Apparently my buddy who took the Everclear jizz stuff saw the sun rise from the bathroom. You Americans are the best. I've run in the same circles you describe for years on the exhibitor side as well, and this post is so true. Also, I'm pretty sure I know the person you're referring to in your Guillermo del Toro anecdote. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy either. Spent something like 6 years on staff for Anime Central. Shinichi Watanabe aka Nabashin was a regular guest for ASEN, and he really wanted to be con security. They gave him his own security vest and radio, and he just had a blast running around the service corridors when he wasn't needed for a panel. There was the time we were breaking down on Sunday evening and over the radio comes up, "Where's the pallet jack? Last I saw it the Power Rangers had it. Last I saw them they were staging a fight on the parking garage roof." There was the time someone was cosplaying as the merchant from Resident Evil 4, but the inside of his trench coat was filled with lacy panties. There was the time one of the hotel restaurants set off the fire alarms and we had to evacuate the entire hotel. That was like 7 years ago, and I'm still glad that happened early on Friday morning and not on Saturday afternoon or anything like that. Full stop. The time someone decided to go to the dance wearing a towel, and nothing but a towel, and so many ambulances. I used to be a regular ASEN attendee, and my god, with the number of people that had to be carted out of there for medical reasons, I started avoiding the central escalators that opened into the carport. It was nuts. I was standing right there the year the pillows came barreling through with security though. That was pretty cool. I know a guy who is a fairly well-known voiceover artist. Somehow his first con, he felt like it wasn't right to charge people to take pictures with him. He's enjoying himself for a couple of days, and security came up and told him he had to charge for pictures because Mickey Rooney was there and was pee about him not charging, making Rooney look bad. So he starts charging $10. He's amazed at all the money he's making. Then security came back and told him that he had to charge at least $20 because Rooney was complaining again. At the end of the weekend he had a little bag of cash on him. He said he felt like a gangster. I'd have told the convention staffers, probably not security, by the way, probably, to go jump in a lake. This is the worst sort of pandering to guests' unreasonable demands. I ran a table with my dad at a convention in Atlanta, selling his artwork. I was walking the floor, handing out some advertisements of his artwork website to attract people to the dealer art room, when I suddenly see this mangy dude run through the crowd faster than I'd ever seen anyone run through a con. I stopped to stare, and then, right behind him, this massive dude dressed as the Kingpin, Spider-Man, ran around the corner after him, yelling for him to stop. Right after him came stormtroopers, and then, right after them came security. Never did find out what happened, but I often laugh at the image of all these strange folk running after this guy. My boyfriend's uncle makes a living working at conventions, running Fernando's engravings. He does hand-stamped engraved stainless steel rings in a variety of languages. I've gotten really good at listing off after working the stand with him a few times. Old High Gallifreyan and Orabesh are the newest two. Was really good at Awesome Con. Since Peter was there, I think the coolest thing I've seen so far is the 2-3 couples who have come up to the stand and ordered their engagement rings from us. It's such a cute, nerdy little thing and I love it 9/10 times so far. They do long engravings in Elvish, since the whole consonants above vowels thing makes it easier to fit more. Dude, fix your boyfriend's uncle's website. Cool product, but awful web presence. Hosted a blood drive at Heroes Con a few years back. Never thought I would draw blood from a Twi'lek or watch a fat Captain America squirm at a needle going in his arm. I always donate blood at Comic Con. They have the best free stuff, and it gives my feet a much needed rest. It depends on what types of interesting stories you're looking for. I've worked at these types of events as an event planner and an exhibitor, so it depends on what angle you're looking for. My spouse is pretty well-known comic book artist, works for the big companies on the big titles, so he gets a lot of people coming by to get autographs, pictures, etc. There's always at least 2-3 people per convention who want advice on how to get famous and get furious when he doesn't have a shortcut to offer. He always advises everyone to hone their craft, etc. And no one wants to hear that and start yelling and cussing and basically accusing him of trying to keep them out because he's jealous of their talent, etc. One guy got so belligerent that security stepped in, all because he wouldn't set a meeting with editorial for this random guy to have his portfolio reviewed, which, BTW, is not something that the artists have any control over. If you're looking for a job in comics, don't badger the artists. I've also seen some dumb stuff that could be considered interesting if you care who the artists are. Lots of guys sleeping under the tables in their booths because they're too drunk. Fistfights on the convention floor between famous artists. Tons of infidelities. Drunk in public escapades, etc. A recent one that my husband was telling again just the other day was from a convention last year. A woman came up, cradling a baby in her arms. The woman was cosplaying as part of a famous super duo and the baby was dressed as the other half of the duo. My husband worked on the book that the characters were from, so the woman came up to get her book signed and show off her costumes. So we're complimenting the detail, etc. She made them herself, and she turns the baby to show us the front of the costume. The whole time, she's very ginger and whispering and gently rocking the baby in her arms because the baby is asleep, and my husband comments on how cute the baby is and the woman starts going on and on and on about how difficult this baby was to have and it was her dream in life to be a mother, etc. And he's thinking this is so sweet. When she finally leaves, she excuses herself to change the baby's diaper and my husband says something to me about how angelic that baby was. So I had to burst his bubble and explain that it was a real baby reborn, which is a type of doll that is painted to feel realistic. A lot of the women who collect these dolls treat them like real children and sort of live in delusion. I've seen a woman on an airplane breastfeeding one of her dolls after demanding that she be given a second seat for the car seat, which she didn't pay for or reserve, and screaming at the flight attendants for upsetting her baby. I feel like things like real baby are a perfect way for people to signal that they are indeed crazy. I was managing social media for a con in Texas that invited a ton of actors from Game of Thrones. My friends and I happened to have way too much beer, so we carried it around and offered some to the talent. Quite a few of the actors accepted, and we got to stand around with them drinking on the con floor on the last day, shooting the crap, and got as many pictures with them as we wanted for free. Because of that, some of them bought us drinks at the hotel bar, too, once the con finished and everyone was waiting to leave for their flights. I'm so envious of you right now. I have worked a few cons, MagFest, Boston Comic Con, and a few really small regional ones, mostly in the artist's alley with my friend for both running the booth when she is gone and keeping her entertained. MagFest is my least favorite simultaneously. It is the best as it normally can pull some pretty interesting people and those people are super interesting to talk to. The worst is a grand majority of the goers are the most unwashed filthy neckbeards I have ever seen and smelled. It has evolved into a bingo card we fill out and the loser has to hoof it to Potbellies for the dinner run. Group of 2 or more guys both buying DACA cases. Person in cosplay way too good for this con. Low rent furry mom, why did you bring your kids here are some of the spots we put in on our cards. The best story is one I heard on the grapevine from a friend we see each year there. This friend's friend went with her boyfriend to the con and the boyfriend spent pretty much the entire weekend in the conference room set aside for Magic the Gathering. This was probably 2012ish as it was before they started having bigger tournaments and qualifiers at the convention, so it was quarantined to that singular room. Anyway, he spent all weekend in this room, made constant plans to go to panels with her, or take her to the National Harbor Marina to walk around and get dinner at one of the nice places to eat, or whatever. Each time left her hanging as he stayed in the room playing cards. It eventually came to light that he has also spent $400, his con and food money, entirely on buying packs to open. This I can believe, as when I did a walkthrough of the room to stretch my legs I saw a 55-gallon trash can filled to the top in wrappers. So he was texting her inconsistently about bumming some money from her so he could pay for the extremely overpriced hotel lobby food so he wouldn't have to actually leave the hotel and could play more. She is obviously pretty mad, as this was both his idea to come to the con and had already broken promises of "I won't ignore you and we will both go do things you want to do, see." So she ended up jumping from the room with her boyfriend, breaking up and moving to my friend's room Saturday night, and then Sunday night hooking up at an after party with a VA who had a panel. This VA being the only panel her boyfriend went to, and for the specific reason of telling him about it after, so that VA is ruined for him. Nerd drama, folks. If this had happened at BCC, I would have sworn I know the MGH obsessed boyfriend and ticked off ex-girlfriend. I have a friend who was staff at a small regional anime con for a number of years. Apparently 2 years ago at 4 in the morning Saturday night, a staff member went to investigate a crowd that gathered on the stairs between the convention center and the attached hotel. Well, the group disperses once staff shows up, and it turns out 2 girls and 4 guys were having a BJ competition. I was presenting a game at E3 a couple years ago and went to man one of our displays to give the girl running demos a break, and not 30 seconds after she left, the very next person to come over and ask to play was Dante Basco, Rufio. The girl was so salty when she found out. Dante Basco is also known as the guy who voices Prince Zuko in Avatar. Guarding Bruce Campbell's door at E3. I worked for THQ Games like 12 or 13 years ago, and at that time we had just announced the first Evil Dead game. So I'm at E3 and get selected for the guard this motherfucking door with your life. If anyone from press gets in, you're fired position. Turns out BC is our booth guest that year and he's behind that door. I'm standing there for probably 10 minutes. Then there's a knock behind me. I made a quick look to make sure one of my co-workers or a press member isn't messing with me. All clear. I ask a nearby co-worker to watch the door. I knock back and tell him it's THQ staff security entering. I open up and there's BC looking at me, lightly jostling his glass, and says, "Hey buddy, can a guy get some ice around here or what?" with a big smile on my face. I apologize, grab his glass and tell him I'll be right back. Knowing I can't leave my post, I exit and tell one of my co-workers to please get ice. He gets the ice while I'm waiting outside. A minute later, the ice arrives and I go back in. I told him I'm a big fan. Love the Evil Dead movies and such. Clearly he's heard it a bazillion times by his reaction. Aha, groovy, and goes about his business. A minute passes and he says to me, "So when are going to ask me for the picture?" Sweet. I asked if it's okay. Obviously he says yes. I get the co-worker who was watching the door to come and so he can take the picture. He in turn gets another co-worker to watch the door for him so he can take the picture. As he is about to take the picture, BC says, "Okay, doing Elvis in 3, 2, 1 inches," and all my dumb butt can come up with is this. Have to post the Inga link later, but it's a dumb smile and my shoulders hunched forward. BC pats me on the back. I shake his hand and tell him to knock if he needs anything at all. I leave, close the door, and there's my team lead looking pee off because I, assumingly, asked BC for a picture and why I had to take 2 staff members from their posts. He wasn't happy, but frick it, I got a pic with the man. His personality was totally polite but slightly stuffy because, well crap, because he's fricking Bruce Campbell. I think he was just fun with it all. The coolest guy I've ever met. I'm a big fan of his soup. As security working these events, the amount of people who bring in weapons, real ones. No sir, you can't paint the tip of a real firearm orange. No sir, it doesn't matter if it isn't loaded. No sir, I can't allow you re-entry. Here in the UK, they stop you bringing in sticks, then let you buy swords, knives, and crossbows inside. I was bartending in Indianapolis during Gen Con. Back in 2011, I was walking downtown before a shift and popped over to the liquor store on Pennsylvania. A group of Madrigal performers, but I assume that's the correct term, were making their way over to Scotty's Brewhouse to have a bite, instruments in hand, and I saw one of the scraggly dudes who hits people up for change walking briskly in their direction. I sped up, cause I was worried he was gonna make a run on these poor guys. When he got close, he yelled, at the top of his lungs. "Hey pirate mans, you all know P got you hooked," and started doing a little two-step in front of them. They were completely confused. I've never laughed so much in my life. Probably just best to say bards or some such. Madrigals, traditionally, are usually a cappella. I've worked Boston Comic Con and PAX East. My favorite thing about them was seeing all the parents and kids equally as excited to be there. It always warmed my heart to see families bonding with something like this. When my friends or I play con bingo at BCC, we have squares for kid having best day his her of life and parent having best day of his her life. We had a booth in 2004 San Diego and none other than King R.R. Martin shared our space. He wasn't so famous then. I jumped over our booth table to punch my friend in the balls, don't ask, and scared the bejeebies out of RR. Pixar didn't happen. Disclaimer. I know nothing about cons, so maybe this is only odd to me, but I found this fascinating. My brother was performing subcontract building maintenance at a furry con. Got to talking with an artist there, drawing painting. Asked him what he draws and the response was Dragon P. I didn't know that was a thing. Should have asked if he collected expensive blow up giant dragons. It's called Game of Thrones now. I was doing photo blog of 2015 D23 Expo in Anaheim. I first-hand witnessed a cosplay duo have it out in middle of a busy walkway. Their argument started when the guy noticed that the girl was looking at a Flynn Rider cosplayer a little too long. He just lost it and started yelling at her at all the random outfit work he had to do for this evening and that she should just go F the Flynn Rider cosplayer. She began to hysterically cry and fell to the ground. I can't for the life of me remember who they cosplayed as. I should have taken a photo but was just as shocked by the whole thing. At PAX last year, this kid came up to me saying he lost his 2DS on Friday. First day, he came back every day and we looked every day until it showed up in our booth 2 hours before the show floor closed on Monday. The look on the kid's face was priceless. Not that interesting crazy, just made me really happy. Ran audio for Comic-Con in Seattle. Christopher Lloyd hugged me for giving him his mic. Michael Rooker asked me if he smelled like weed before he went on stage. I told him he smelled like a fresh smoked joint. He grinned at me, then tried to practice his martial arts on me. None can get close to Patrick Stewart. 10/10 would do it again. I worked at a Comic Con this year doing promo for a game on Kickstarter. I got paid pretty well to walk around in a costume the creators of this game made while getting pictures taken telling people about the game. Outchasers. I was dressed as Heksha, in full body paint, wig, scleris, everything. Anyway, I probably have more interesting stories than this, but the only one that really stuck with me was the Dippin' Dots guy. I was on the second floor walking around in the showcasing area, headed towards this exit when a man, an African American in maybe his early 30s, loudly starts talking to his group. "Dude, I really hope they have Dippin' Dots. I could really go for some dots right now. Hey, do you think they have Dippin' Dots here? They better. I'm craving some dots." I'm trying not to laugh as I'm just right behind this guy, and right as we get out the doors, lo and behold, there's a little Dippin' Dots car just on the right of the exit outside. The guy sees this, fist pumps the air excitedly, and exclaims, "Oi yee Dippin' Dots. TL. DR. Man hopes for Dippin' Dots, gets his dots in the end." My friend did the artwork on a game, Pixel Sprites, and worked at a booth for a bunker sim kinda game last PAX. Apparently a guy that worked for the Fallout Shelter game came by and my friend was very nervous since their game had a similar theme even if the game was totally not the same. But the dude complimented them on the game, calling it a Fallout Shelter on steroid. Best compliment ever. I was a volunteer at Calgary Fan Expo this year, which was held the first weekend of May, and it was hot as frick out. Stan Lee was showing up for his final convention in Canada, so a lot of people were expected to turn out. Sure enough, it was the busiest the annual convention had ever been. It wasn't super interesting, except for one occurrence. The convention officially began Thursday, but Friday was when everyone started showing up, so it was packed. I was checking tickets at the entrance, pretty boring. After about 2 hours of non-stop ticket checking, I decided to take a break at about noon to grab something to eat. Some woman and her 3 kids, who should have been in school but I digress, yelled at me for leaving when they were next in line. I explained someone else would help them in a few seconds, but she wasn't having it and storms past the gate. 2 security guards confront her asking for her tickets. She's the type of person who is never told no, and when she said she didn't have her tickets but was meeting a friend inside, was quite shocked to learn she would not be allowed to attend the convention. I grabbed my bag of chips from my lunch bag and watch. This is gonna be good. She's throwing a fit while her 3 kids, all of whom were probably in the 6-10 age range, all had the look of "not this crap again, mom" on their face. Someone else takes my spot and the line continues. She freaks out, asking why they're allowed in and she's not. The guard explains so simply that pretty much anyone with a basic understanding of how the world works would understand. They have tickets, you don't yet. She had the look on her face like they just told her some complicated math formula. The other guard chimes in, "Mom, you're gonna have to leave or we will contact the police." Needless to say, she went berserk, started screaming, called the guards sexist pricks, threw her bottle of Pepsi at me and was causing a big scene. Her smallest child burst into tears while the other 2 comforted their crying sibling, while her mom was seconds away from punching out this hulking 6 feet 6 inches security guard, who I later learned was a pretty dang good boxer back in his heyday. Nothing will calm this woman down. Not her upset children, not 2 huge security guards, not a crowd of well over 1,000 people giving her a weird look, and not even the very real possibility of her being arrested. All because she didn't follow the basic rule of you have to pay to get in. Well, there was one thing that could calm her down. Who else to show up but Nolan fricking North to basically tell her to shut the frick up. It was glorious. Her face turned bright red, but she just huffed heavily, pretty much yanked her kids, gave one final "frick you buttholes" to me and the security guards and left. TL. DR. Fat B doesn't pay, Nolan North tells her to frick off. I've worked much smaller conventions, usually held in hotels. In the past these conventions would manage to book the entire hotel, but these smaller cons are not as popular as they once were. The artist go was Kit Ray, a fantasy artist whose work tended toward the erotic. The chairwoman decided to make a costume based on one of his drawings, and this outfit consisted primarily of half-inch wide leather straps. Technically everything that had to be covered was, but for all intents and purposes she was wearing 2 band-aids and a cork. Unfortunately, as the con didn't book the whole hotel, we were double booked with a bunch of football fans from some of the college bowl games. These sports fans were being incredibly rude to the sci-fi fans. When the chairwoman was walking around the open grounds of the hotel, she wore a cloak to avoid angering the hotel management. But on 3 different occasions when the fans were being unruly, she dropped the cloak. And in each of those 3 occasions a wife or girlfriend slapped her husband's or boyfriend's face for staring. This was exactly her goal and it worked beautifully. I worked a con in Dallas, Texas around 2001 or 2002. In front of our booth, 2 people, one dressed as a starfish, I believe a Pokemon, and another a classic furry fox, began to finger blast each other for about 5 minutes before security hauled them out. Talk about surf and turf. That same convention, an old lady staying at the hotel who wasn't associated with the convention claimed she was jumped by 3 men dressed as ninjas while in the elevator. The ninjas were never found, the mark of well-trained assassins. After the move to the Anatole, the following incidents have occurred. 1. Someone had some LSD at the rave. It managed to find its way into the hotel's koi pond. 2. There was a girl who had too much Molly at the rave. They used to have an elephant statue with long tusks. Those tusks aren't long anymore because of what the girl did to him while on Molly. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.